Hello, I am your chess instructor today. And so, you want to significantly improve your final phase gameplay. However, converting middle game advantages into concrete wins is the key. Welcome to Chess Assassin's channel, where continuous learning and relentless practice leads to substantial improvement.
Black does not have a dark square bishop. White, on the other hand, has a 2-bishop advantage and also a battery. And with this move, bishop to h6 threatens checkmate. The only thing Black can do is prolong the mate, but it's inevitable. Queen to f8 check is unstoppable. Checkmate. The last example was a very basic one. Now we're going to look at some games in which Black has to actually play in order to deliver the checkmate. King to h3 is the move played in the game. However, let's take a look and see what happens if White decides to capture the pawn on f4. If Knight captures pawn on f4, then the continuation is check. What would you do if you were playing Black? Take a look at the board. This is the vision you want. You want to bring the rook all the way around. Rook to b6. The knight is played to the h-file to give the king some cover, and after this move, king to h4. However, after Black doubles up on the knight, then the game is overwhelmingly lost. So now we get back to the game. After pawn to f4, the move is king to h3, and the continuation is as follows. Now in this line, White will advance the pawn to d5 to support the knight, and will somehow get the rook on the 4th rank, and will capture the pawn on f4. Again, I mentioned this before. This is called jockeying for position. You might see moves repeated a couple times. And now knight captures pawn on f4. Check. And another thing to notice is how Black keeps both rooks very active in the endgame. Now the threat here is checkmate, so White steps back to avoid the mate. Now in this position, if king takes pawn, then White will proceed with knight takes pawn on c7 with check. Again, Black threatens checkmate, so White has to step back in order to be able to swing the rook over to block the check or the potential check. And examine the position. Look at the pawns, do the pawn count, the position of the kings. Black needs only one rook to win the endgame. So makes the exchange sacrifice, and the game is over. Okay, we're going to look at one more continuation from this position before going on to a different puzzle. So the theme for this one is the same position, but the theme is overworked pieces. This time I want you to see how black forces white to overwork his pieces. Check. Check. And what I like about this line is that black has a plan of pushing the A pawn to try and promote the A pawn. And in doing so, in trying to push the A pawn, this gives white a little bit more movement around the board. Because in this line, black is not just going directly for the king. And this allows white to put up a little bit or a tiny bit more resistance. The only move. And now black begins pushing the B pawn. White is putting up a lot of resistance, but after check, the king moves, and after the king moves out of the check, then the rook on A1 moves. And black wins. Here we arrive at a different game, a different puzzle. The theme for this puzzle is pressure on the king side pressure. Black's king is in no danger and is safe on G8 even with the F7 pawn missing. The scary potential move that black has at its disposal would be moving the rook over to G6 to threaten the queen, and that's what he does. Now there's tremendous pressure on black's kingside pawn, so white offers the trade of queens. Even in this position where white has two bishops versus black's knight and bishop, and also each side has a rook, you're going to wonder how well black's knight fares against white's bishop. Here in this position, knight takes pawn on e5 and white recaptures. Bishop takes knight on e5, rook takes e5, And now what we're left with is opposite colored bishops and a rook for each side. And black, of course, wins on the pawn count.
Black sets up a mini fortress. It is a defensive maneuver that falls under the middle game themes.
Black's defensive setup while trying to queen a pawn is actually a mini fortress. Notice how the rook just sits on the 5th rank and the bishop stays on the A3 to F8 diagonal in order to defend the pawns. Now, I encourage you to practice these lines with a friend on your chessboard. Now, this next game we're going to watch is Black's aggressive line. Super aggressive, because in this line, knight takes pawn on F2 right away.
Oh, I've been studying the middle game, so you know what to do. Once you reach a certain point in the middle game, it's time to trade down to an end game, and you want to aim to trade pieces, not pawns.
Although white offered to trade queens, black declined. But on the second try, black decided to trade the queens. Trade pieces, not pawns, is based on the idea that you want to have more pawns in the endgame. Check. Your opening strategy and your middle game may be up to par, but your end game may be in question. For instance, if you are consistently reaching the end game and losing a lot, then your problem may be a lack of endgame knowledge. Do you know when one side has a king and the other side has a king and a pawn? Do you know when that is a win for the side that has the king and the pawn? And do you know when it is a draw? Have you heard of the Capablanca endgame? In other words, can you win the Capablanca endgame with white? And if you're playing the Capablanca endgame as black, do you know how to draw the game if white goes wrong? On the other hand, if you are consistently losing in the middle game, then you need to work on your tactics. In this position, black is certainly winning, which is why you're going to see black force a trade of rooks. Thank you. That is all I have for now. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe.